All right, you may be seated. I just would like to address on the record, for purposes of the media, when we are in recess, there should be no videoing, and the recording should also be stopped as well. So just want to make sure that that's being adhered to. So thank you so much for that. All right, are we prepared with the next witness?
Yes, Your Honor.
So then I would at this time ask the clerk to bring the jurors in.
Yes, Your Honor.
Thank you. All right, welcome back, ladies and gentlemen. Hope you enjoyed your lunch. Counsel, please stipulate to the return of our jurors after lunch.
State will stipulate, Your Honor.
Defense stipulate, Your Honor.
All right, thank you so much. All right, at this point in time, I would direct the state to call its next witness.
Thank you, Your Honor. The state would call Keenan Fraczek to the stand.
Thank you. Good afternoon. Please enter the witness stand. Please remain standing. And my clerk to my right is going to put you to oath, okay? Thank you.
Thank you, Your Honor. Please raise your right hand, sir. Do you solemnly swear or solemnly and sincerely affirm, as the case may be, that the evidence you shall give concerning this case shall be the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth, so help you God, or upon penalty of perjury? If so, please say I do.
I do.
Please state your name, spelling your last name, and address for the record, sir.
Keenan Fraczek, 16 Woodcrest Avenue, Kenan Fraczek.
You may be seated. Thank you.
Good afternoon, Keenan.
Good afternoon.
Can you just do us a favor, sit close to that microphone. The acoustics in here are pretty bad, so the jury needs to hear what you have to say, okay? Keenan, how old are you?
I am 20 years old.
And do you go to school?
I do.
Where do you go to
Central
school?
Connecticut State University.
And what are you studying?
Nursing.
And are you working for the summer?
I am.
What are you doing?
I'm working part-time at Bass Pro Shops and doing lawn work.
You know why you're here today?
I do.
Why are you here today?
To say my part in what happened leading up to and after the event.
Are you nervous to be here today?
Sure am.
I want to direct your attention to May 14th of 2022. How old were you back then?
16.
And did you go to school?
I did.
Where did you go to school?
St. Joseph High School.
And what year were you?
I was in my sophomore year.
So you're a rising junior?
Yes.
And are you familiar with an individual by the name of Jack Snyder?
I am.
How are you familiar with Jack Snyder?
Schoolmate.
At St. Joe's?
Yes.
Are you familiar with an individual by the name of Tyler De Silva?
I am.
And how are you familiar with him?
Schoolmate at St. Joe's.
And are you familiar with an individual by the name of Raul Valle?
I am.
And how are you familiar with him?
Schoolmate at St. Joe's.
Does he have a nickname?
He does.
And what is his nickname?
He was called Lido.
And is the defendant, is Raul present in courtroom today?
He is.
And what is he wearing?
Blue suit.
And can you please point him out for the record? Your Honor, may the record reflect the witness has identified the defendant in this case?
Court will allow the record to reflect that the witness has identified Mr. Valle. Thank you.
Now, Keenan, I want to direct your attention to May 14th of 2022, specifically Madigan Leifer's house. Can you tell us what was going on at Madigan Leifer's house that night and what time you got there?
There was a party going on. A couple of grades mixed within the St. Joseph school community. We were all hanging out, having a good time, obviously drinking some alcohol. And I believe I got there around, I'd say 9 o'clock.
And were you drinking?
I was.
How much were you drinking?
3 beers.
And when you say beers, what kind of beer? Remember?
Busch Light.
Bush Light. And how long were you there? Well, withdrawn. At some point in time, when you were at Madigan Lifer's house, did individuals show up that you were not familiar with? Or are you aware that individuals showed up that you're not familiar with?
I am aware.
Okay. But you didn't see them?
Did not see it.
Around what time would you say, how long were you at Madigan Lifer's house between the time you got there and the time that you became aware that these individuals showed up?
I can't put an exact time on it, but it was around 1 to 2 hours.
Okay. So at some point in time, tell the ladies and gentlemen of the jury what you were exactly doing aside from drinking alcohol. What were you doing at the party at the Lifer house?
Socializing with my friends, maybe playing some drinking games like beer pong, something of those sorts.
Do you know whether or not when you were there, whether or not Jack Snyder was at that party?
Jack Snyder was present.
And was Tyler DeSilva there?
He was.
And was the defendant there?
He was.
Now, at some point in time, were you inside the house or outside the house when you were at this party?
Inside for most of the time.
At some point in time, did you exit the house for some reason?
I did.
And why did you exit the house?
My buddy named Ryan, he said he wasn't feeling well, felt uneasy, said he had to vomit. So I took him outside, went around the house into the back, and was with him while he was vomiting.
And when you were doing that, how long would you say you were out back with him for?
I'd say 20 minutes.
And after 20 minutes, did you return to the garage or driveway area of the home?
I did.
And when you did that, what, if anything, was occurring at that moment?
Nothing was occurring at that moment as we were driving, or I'd say walking around the house. We heard some shouting from a car from the driving past the road, and we're trying to figure out what was going on.
And did you, in fact, figure out what was going on?
We were informed.
Okay. And were you informed about a fight that had taken place?
We were informed.
And you did not witness that fight?
Did not.
And at some point in time, shortly after that fight, did the party break up?
It did.
And can you please describe to the ladies and gentlemen of the jury the circumstances surrounding the party breaking up?
Can you repeat that?
Well, in other words, you got back, you heard about this fight. How long after did you hear about the fight that did the party break up?
Oh, within 20 minutes.
And how did the party break up? Did parents inform you that the party was over? How did that happen?
I don't believe it was the parents. The older sister was telling everybody to disperse and get out of the house. The party was over.
And so when the party was over, what, if anything, were you concerned about at that point in time?
Trying to get home.
And did you have a ride home at that point?
I did not.
And were you hanging out with anybody at the moment, at that moment, who also needed a ride home?
Yes.
And who was that?
Demetrios Arfanis and Will Sinchwald.
And at some point in time, were you able to find a ride home?
Yes.
Now, prior to that, you recall seeing the defendant, Jack Snyder, at the house.
Yes. Yes.
I'm going to show you State's Exhibit 53. Can you identify the people in State's 53? This person in the red?
Jack Snyder.
And how about this person here with the helmet on?
Raul Valle.
The defendant?
Yes.
Now, at some point in time, you were able to find a ride from Lazy Brook?
I was.
And who offered you a ride?
Jack Snyder.
Okay. And was anybody else offered a ride at that point in time?
Yes, Demetrios Arfanis was. He was planning from the beginning of the night to sleep over at my house after the party. And Will Sinchwald.
And at some point in time, did you get into Jack's car?
Yes.
Show you States 30. You recognize States 30?
That was the vehicle.
That's Jack's car?
Yes.
And when you got into that vehicle, who else got into the vehicle with you?
Jack Snyder was driving his car. Tyler DeSilva, Lido Valley, or Raul Valle, Demetrios, myself, Will Sinchwald, and Mackenzie Traficante.
Now, how do you know all those people?
We all went to school together at St. Joe's.
You were all St. Joe students?
Yes.
Now, when you left Lazy Brook in Jack's car, did you know where you were headed?
We were going to Trumbull High
Why were you going there?
to figure out where we were going to go after, whether it was a different party, hang out at somebody else's house. It was kind of just like a middle grounds almost to figure out where we were going to go next.
And did you, in fact, at some point get to Trumbull High School?
We did.
And when you got there, did you guys discuss what to do next?
Not really. When we got to Trumbull High, we met up with some other females that were at the party, and the whole group of people were split up, and Lito, Jack, and Tyler were talking amongst themselves, and I was talking to a different group of individuals, and so I had my own separate conversation.
So were you close enough where you could hear what the defendant was talking about with Jack and Tyler?
No,
How long would you say you were at Trumbull High School for?
I'd give it 20 minutes.
Okay. And when you were at Trumbull High School, did you have anything to drink between the time you left Lazy Brook and the time you got to Trumbull High School?
No,
Did you have anything to drink when you were at Trumbull High School?
no.
Now, after about 20 minutes, did you all get back into Jack's car?
We did.
And why did you do that?
Because everything was wrapped up and thought we were going home.
You thought you were going home?
Yes,
And did you leave Trumbull High School?
we did.
And when you left Trumbull High School, where were you headed? Did you think you were going home?
I thought we were heading home to my house
what-
with Demetrios.
At what point in time did you realize you weren't heading home?
So when we got out of Trumbull High, we took a right, and we were supposed to take a right, the next right, back into Trumbull, but we took a left into Shelton, and that's how I knew we were not going to my house.
And what town do you live in?
Trumbull.
So when you took the left to go into Shelton, was there any talk about where you're going? Drop me home, anything like that?
I assumed that we were dropping Mackenzie off because I knew she was from Shelton, but didn't know what part, didn't know where she lived.
At some point in time, did you pull up on a house in Shelton?
We did.
And do you recall what house that was?
The estate of Tyler Rich.
Show your state's 9. Is that the house that you guys pulled up to?
Yes.
Show your state's 49. Again, aerial view, is that the Tyler Rich house that you pulled up to?
Yes.
Can you tell us in state's 49 where exactly you guys pulled up, if you can recall?
I can't exactly recall the road we came in on. I knew we were facing the direction of a cul-de-sac, and we were right in front of the driveway, and drove by, turned around at the cul-de-sac, and then went back towards the driveway.
And at some point in time, prior to arriving at Tyler Rich's house, were you aware of a group chat that was going on between some of your friends and some of the Shelton High School kids?
After the fact, I know about it now. I was not a part of that group chat, and there was no talk about that group chat, so no, I was not informed.
At some point in time when you pulled up to Tyler Rich's house, did you witness anybody exit that house?
When we initially drove by,
Sure.
there were people outside.
And at some point in time, when you stopped in front of the house, did people approach the car?
After we turned around in the cul-de-sac, and we got surrounded by people.
And how many people would you say, were outside at any given time?
At least 20.
At least 20. And when they surrounded the car, can you tell us a little bit about how that interaction initially took place?
So initially, we got surrounded, and no, I believe they were on one side of the car, and
What side of the car were they on?
the driver's side. And everything was cordial at first, and then someone from the back shouted something, and then Jack Snyder replied back, and then things started getting out of hand, and the car got surrounded.
And when you say the things got out of hand, what kind of things were happening?
The tensions were escalating.
And when you say tensions, were people arguing?
They were.
At some point in time, did anything happen where, was anything thrown at the car, or did anybody touch the car?
Yes, things were thrown. and the people were on the back of the car bouncing on the rear bumpers. People were outside the passenger window, the back seat windows, banging on the windows.
And when that happened, what, if anything, happened next with regards to the car?
With regards to the car, things were just getting way too out of hand. I was pretty scared at the moment, and then I don't remember who shouted, but someone said go, and Jack Snyder hit the gas pedal, and we went.
And when you went, where did you go?
We went down the road, about 2-3 houses, but they were pretty spread out.
And in States 49, can you see where you went down the road?
Yes, towards the top of the image.
So somewhere in this area here?
Yes.
If the record can reflect, I'm pointing on the left side of on the right side of the picture towards the top of Laurel Glen. We're just before the intersection of Farmhouse Road and Laurel Glen.
Court will allow the record to reflect that. Thank you.
And when the car went up that way, what, if anything, happened when you were up there?
The individuals inside of the car got out, including myself, and some Shelton kids ran up, and they were talking with Lito, Jack, and Tyler Da Silva.
And who, if you can recall, who exactly got out of the car at that moment?
I don't remember.
Did you get out of the car at some point?
I did get out of the car at some point.
Why did you get out of the car?
Really because nothing good was happening there. Kind of walked into a trap and wanted to escape.
And you said people from down the street ran down,
Yes.
and did they speak to any of you guys down the road?
They did not speak to myself, Demetrios, Mackenzie, or Will. We were sitting on the curb away from the car, and they were talking to Tyler, Jack, and Lito.
And when they were talking to Tyler and Jack, what was the tone of the conversation? Not what they said, but what was the tone of the back and forth?
At first, everything was cordial, and then it escalated a little bit.
Was there any arguing going on?
Not really too much shouting. I would say it was pretty cordial at first.
At some point, well, let me ask you this. Did you witness the Shelton kids interacting with the defendant and Tyler and Jack?
Yes.
And did you witness any physical altercation down the road when the kids came down the road? Was there any fighting, physical fighting?
No.
How long would you say the interaction was between your group of friends and the Shelton kids?
I'd give it 5 minutes.
Now, I want to show you what's been marked as States Exhibit 44. Let me play the second video. Yep. Now, have you seen that before?
I have.
You've seen that in my office?
Yes.
Now, do you know whether or not that part of the video happens before you get out of the car or after you get out of the car?
I believe it happened before.
So you're kind of still in the car, a couple people get out, or 3 people get out, walk down the road, you're in the car, and at some point, does Jack turn the car around and come back? How does that happen? Let us know what the
How I got
If
to,
you
got
can
to the
recall,
curb area.
what's that?
How I got to the curb area.
Yeah,
Is what
how
you're
that,
asking?
so based on that, if that happens before you get out of the car, help us understand when you get out of the car in relation to that exhibit.
That video was pretty much a blur. That's one part of the night.
Right.
It was new to me once you showed me that video. Didn't exactly remember or recall exactly how all those events went down. I can't say if I got out of the car before that happened or after that happened. But I know before the individuals went back, I was already out of the car with a couple of my friends who I arrived with sitting on the curb.
So when you say the individuals went back, are you referring to the kids from the Shelton group?
No, I'm referring to Jack, Lito, and Tyler.
Oh, okay. So, well, let me ask you this. At some point, this is a small picture or small video of what happened down the road, right?
Mm-hmm.
So at some point in time, you get out of the car with Will, Mackenzie, and Dimitri,
Yes.
and you sit on the curb.
Yes.
When you do that, is there an interaction between Tyler, Jack, and the defendant?
Yes.
Can you please explain what that interaction is like?
So the interaction was, first of all, it was agitated. The scene was tense. Lito was searching for a weapon in the car. He said, "Jack, where is your knife? Where the F is your knife?" And he was looking around in the glove box and the center console and did not find anything.
I'm sorry?
I did not see a knife.
How was the defendant reacting prior to looking for the knife?
He was on edge
Why was he on edge?
because he was upset he was upset from what happened to Jack's car.
And what kind of things was he saying to make you feel like he was upset? How was he acting?
It's going pretty insane. I'd say he was using vulgar language, cussing. Jack, look what the F they did to your car.
And after he said, look what the F that they did to your car, that's when he asked Jack, where's the knife?
Yes.
How long would you say that was going on for down the street?
That they were searching?
Well, that the defendant was acting in an aggressive manner and cursing and going insane because of what happened to the car, and then looking for the knife.
No more than 30 seconds.
And you indicated that you did not see a knife.
I did not.
Do you know whether or not the defendant ended up finding a knife?
After the fact,
Right, but at the moment,
I
you did-
assume he found a knife, but in the moment, did not see a knife and believe for the rest of the night that he never found a knife because I never saw one.
Now, when you say that the three of them went back down the street, before they go back down the street, was there any talk about going back down the street by the defendant?
Yes.
What was he saying?
I don't remember the exact words they were saying, but there was conversation. I was too far away to hear the exact words, and they got back in and drove down.
Now, not telling us what either Jack or Tyler said, did any of those two individuals try to talk the defendant out of going back down the street?
Tyler did.
Now, at some point in time, you indicate that the car leaves to go down the street.
Yes.
Do you see who gets in Jack's car before going down the street?
Yes.
Oh.
Jack was driving, and Lito, and Tyler Silva.
And when the car goes down the street, how long would you say the car was down the street for before it returned?
No more than 5 minutes.
And when it was down the street, what if anything did you hear when it was down the street?
So it went down the street, and the four of us were talking amongst ourselves, trying to really figure out what was going on. and how we ended up in the situation. And they drove down, and you can kind of hear the tire screech a little bit, and so you know the car is stopping. And you can't see it, but you could hear it. One, because we were far away. Two, because it was dark. Three, there might have been something obstructing our view. You hear a lot of yelling, but it wasn't high-pitched yelling, which came next. It was more of a rowdy yelling, shouting, and then eventually it turned into a very high-pitched scream.
And after about 5 minutes of the yelling and then high-pitched screaming, did you witness the car return?
Yes.
And when the car returned, were you able to witness what Tyler De Silva looked like?
Yes.
And what did he look like?
He was bleeding a lot, bruised everywhere. I asked him a simple question, and I didn't really get an answer, so he was just about unconscious.
And were you able to witness what the defendant looked like?
Yes.
And how did the defendant appear to you?
Shocked. He had like a shocked look on his face. Didn't look as battered as Tyler De Silva was, nowhere near. But I wasn't inspecting him.
Now, at some point in time, when you, Will, Dimitri, and Mackenzie were waiting down the road, were you able to make arrangements to get another ride home?
Yes.
How did that come about?
So once we were sitting on the curb, Carolyn, who was Will's girlfriend at the time, was picking him up. So Will was getting his ride home. And by the time the car returned before I saw Tyler and Lito after what happened, Will was already gone. His girlfriend picked him up. So he was gone. It was just me, Demetrios, and Mackenzie. And Mackenzie asked us if we needed a ride and her sister could bring us home.
And did you, in fact, get into the car with Mackenzie?
We did.
Again, this is Exhibit 44. I want to have you watch real quick. Is that Jack's car taken off?
Yes.
And these individuals in the road getting into the car here, that's you and...
Myself, Mackenzie, and Demetrios.
And that's at about 11:55 at night?
Sounds about right.
You hear the high-pitched screaming in the background? Did you hear that?
I did not hear it.
So when Jack's car took off, do you know who left in Jack's car with him?
Tyler.
And who got into Mackenzie's sister's car?
So it was myself and Demetrios and Mackenzie. And then I shut the door. And then after, Lito got in.
Lito got in, the defendant?
Yes.
And when he got in, where did he sit in the car? Do you remember?
Rear side, or back right,
And where were you seated in the car?
right next to him,
In the middle?
in the middle.
And on the car ride from, withdrawn, when you guys left Laurel Glen, who was the first to get dropped off?
Myself and Demetrios.
And how long was the ride from Laurel Glen to your house?
Say 8 minutes.
And in that 8-minute ride, Did the defendant say anything in the 8-minute ride over?
No.
In that 8-minute ride, were you able to observe whether or not he had any blood on him?
I did not see any.
Did it appear that he had been in a fight?
You can assume so.
But you didn't see, it didn't appear so?
No.
No further questions, Your Honor. Thank you.
Okay. Cross-exam.
Good afternoon, Mr. Fraczek.
Good afternoon.
We've never met before.
Nice to meet you.
We've never met before.
True.
Okay. You're nervous today.
Of course.
First time testifying in court.
It is.
Just going to go over with you some of your testimony, okay?
Sounds good.
Now, in this case, this isn't the first time that you've spoken about this particular matter, right?
No.
You mentioned you've met with the state's attorney a few times, correct?
Correct.
He showed you some videos, correct?
Correct.
He showed you these 2 videos that we saw today, correct?
Correct.
Have you also seen another video of the fight that took place in the front of Laurel Glen Drive?
No.
You've never seen the fight where Tyler De Silva is down on the ground?
No.
Are you aware that such a video exists?
I've heard chat about it.
And in your case, you spoke, you gave 2 statements, right? You spoke with Detectives Iannotti and Nugent on May 16th,
Sounds right.
and again with Detective Bango and McPadden on September 1st, correct?
Yes.
You were telling us about being at 5 Lazy Brook Road earlier. Do you recall that?
Yes.
And you were invited to that party by whom?
I don't recall whom, but friends.
Did you see Austin Leifer there?
I did.
And what was Austin Leifer doing while you were there?
Drinking like everybody else.
And you told us that you had gone outside with somebody that was ill and throwing up. Do you remember that?
I do.
Was that Austin Leifer?
No.
Did you see Austin Leifer while you were outside?
No.
And you told us that you were there around 1 to 2 hours before these other kids who you said were uninvited arrived, correct?
Sounds about right.
And you were there for 1 to 2 hours, as well as Mr. Snyder and Mr. Valle and Mr. De Silva?
We were there roughly the same amount of time.
You didn't see anybody try to kick them out of that party?
Please rephrase that.
So you didn't see anybody try to tell them to leave that party while you were there for that 1 to 2 hours, did you?
You're talking about the defendant?
Yes, and Mr.
No.
Snyder and Mr. De Silva.
Well, once the party ended, that's when everybody in a whole was asked to leave.
Everybody was kicked out at that point.
Yes. Yes.
But before that,
No.
you didn't see anybody tell them that they had to leave.
No.
And you saw a photograph earlier that states Exhibit 53. You see that? Can you see that on your screen there?
No.
No.
After your justice.
No, it's Herbie.
Technical difficulties. Okay, you can see it now.
I do.
Is that photograph taken at the Leifer's house?
I believe so, yes.
Appears to be.
Yes.
Can you identify either of these 2 folks in the background?
Cannot.
But to the best of your knowledge, that was taken down there in the basement because you recognize the basement where you work, correct?
If it's from the same night, I assume it's the basement.
Well, do you recall these outfits being the clothes that they were wearing?
Yes.
And did you see Mr. Valle that evening wearing some sort of neck pillow around his neck?
I don't recall seeing that, no.
Do you recall seeing him wearing this motorcycle helmet?
No.
Okay. Does this banner on the back wall, does that look familiar to you?
I didn't pay too much attention to the decor.
Anything about that look to you like it's the basement where you were hanging out for the 1 to 2 hours?
It's safe to say it is.
Okay. So you were there for 1 to 2 hours. This photograph you think was taken there in that basement. That's Mr. Valle and Mr. Snyder, correct?
Yes,
You don't recall anybody telling them, hey, you're not invited, you got to get out of here.
that never happened.
And while you were there, you were drinking Busch Light, you told us.
Yes,
You had 3 beers.
3.
3. And you said at some point you became aware that 3 uninvited individuals showed up. Did you actually see them show up?
No,
You were outside at that point.
my buddy was vomiting.
And what was your buddy's name again?
Ryan.
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 Was he also a St. Joe's student?
He was.
And you didn't see the fight that occurred in front of 5 Lazy Brook?
Did not.
Okay. But when you got back to the driveway, you said you saw a car go driving by and you heard some shouting coming from that car?
There was shouting.
What was the shouting?
F you, and then some vulgar language.
Some vulgar language, okay. Did that appear to be directed at anyone?
The people in the driveway.
And in the driveway, did that still include Mr. Snyder, Mr. De Silva, Mr. Valle?
I can't recall if they were in the driveway still or who was out there. I would assume so.
And at that point, you told us you were concerned about trying to get home, right?
Yes.
And you had with you Demetrios Orphanis, who had been planning to sleep over at your house that night,
Yes.
and Will Sinchwald, right?
I don't know if Will was supposed to sleep at my house. I can't recall what our plans with Will were, but if he needed some place to sleep, it would have been my house.
Okay. He was a friend of yours.
He was.
And the 3 of you were offered a ride by Jack Snyder.
Yes.
Had you ever ridden with Jack Snyder before?
Not to my knowledge.
Okay. Was he somebody that you were close with?
In school, yes.
Tyler De Silva, was he somebody that you were close with?
In school, yes.
And Raul Valle, was he somebody that you were close with?
In school, yes.
When you say in school, what does that mean exactly?
Like, we wouldn't go out of our ways to hang out with each other
Okay.
outside of school.
Okay. But on this night, at least, you happened to be at the same party.
Yes, we'd see each other at numerous parties before.
Okay. And so when you got into Jack's car, it was yourself, Jack Snyder, Tyler De Silva, Raul Valle, correct?
Yes.
Demetrios, Will Sinchwald, and Mackenzie Trafficante.
Sounds right.
And so there were 7 of you in that pilot. Is that fair to
Sounds
say?
right. Yep.
Anybody else?
No.
And when you were in the car, what did it sound like in the car?
There was no music played.
No music playing?
No.
So you could hear everybody talking?
No.
Okay. Where were you seated?
In the back.
In the back as far as the trunk area, or in the back as far as the row
Not
of
in the
seats?
trunk area.
Okay. So the
In-
row of
in the
seats
seating.
directly behind the
seating.
passenger and the driver.
Yes.
And which end of that seat were you on?
I don't remember.
Were you by a door?
I don't remember. I was in the back row of seats.
Who were you sitting beside?
I don't remember. I just remember Jack was driving and the 6 other individuals, including myself, were in the car.
Do you remember Demetrios being in the trunk area?
That I do remember.
Okay, why do you remember that in particular?
Because when we were surrounded outside the Rich House, I looked back to him and said, we have to get out of here.
Was he the only one that was in the trunk area?
Will Sinchwald could have been, but he was in the car.
And you were shown a photograph showing you State's Exhibit 30. I'm trying to show you State's Exhibit 30. There we go. And you identified that as the vehicle that you were riding in, correct?
It was a Honda Pilot.
And when you got in the vehicle that night, it did not have this shattered windshield, did it?
When I initially got in,
When you initially got it.
it did not.
And you told us that you went over to Trumbull High School at that point, right?
We did.
And you met up with some girls there, you said.
Yes.
Were those also girls from the party that you had just been at?
Yes.
Okay. How did you know to meet up with them there at Trumbull High School?
Outside the Lifer household, everybody was piling into cars to try to find rides home, and we ended up mutually going to Trumbull High.
Okay. Was that a sort of known meetup spot?
No.
You saw two other folks there that night too, right? Not just the girls. There was a car with two gentlemen in it, right?
Yes.
Do you remember who they were?
Yes.
Who was that?
I know one of them was in there, Shane
Shane,
Coach.
Coach. And was one of them Mike Bagley?
Sounds about right.
Okay. And they were in a white BMW?
Yes.
And how do you know those two individuals?
I grew up with them.
Were they also students at St. Joe's?
They were students at Trumbull High School.
Okay, they were students at Trumbull High. The other two girls, though, they were students at St. Joe's.
Which girls are you referring to?
The two girls that you met at Trumbull High School.
I believe so, yes.
And when you got to Trumbull High School, did you tell us that everybody got out of the car?
Mostly everybody got out of the car. Can't exactly remember how it all happened, but people were scattered.
Okay. And how long did the ride from 5 Lazy Brook to Trumbull High School take?
A few minutes.
3 or 4, 5 or 6?
5 or 6.
5 or 6 minutes. No drinking in the car on the way there.
No.
Was there alcohol in the car?
There could have been. I don't recall.
You didn't see anybody drinking.
No.
You didn't drink yourself.
No.
And you said you stayed there for about 20 minutes, right?
Sounds about right, yes.
And then you got back into Jack's car and you thought that you were going home to your house, right?
Yes.
Because Jack had told you that he was going to be your ride home, right?
Because my ride, when I got to the Lifer household, left. So I didn't have a ride. Jack said he could bring me home.
Okay. And everybody got back into the car at that point, right?
The 7 individuals that were in the car leaving the Lifer household got back in the car.
Okay. And nobody said where you were going at that point. You just told us you assumed that you were going home, right?
I assumed I was going home with Demetrios and Will, or maybe Will was getting dropped off after. My house, compared to everybody else, is the closest to Trumbull High, so I assumed I was going home first.
Gotcha. Nobody said, hey, we're going somewhere else, right?
Not that I remember.
And I think you told us that you, while you were there, well, who were you talking to while you were outside of the car at Trumbull High School?
I can't recall everybody I talked to, or even who I talked to. It just wasn't. I wasn't talking to Lito, Jack, and Tyler.
Okay. So you said they were somewhere among themselves.
That sounds right.
Did you see them, or you just assumed that?
It was safe to assume.
Okay. So you didn't see them.
I saw that they weren't with me.
Well,
So that means they have to be together.
okay. But you didn't actually see them together, is what I'm asking.
I wasn't focusing my attention on them.
I understand that. You were talking to other people.
Yes.
I'm just saying, you assumed that they were somewhere together, but you didn't actually see them somewhere together, did you?
They were at the car.
Oh, you saw them at the car?
Yeah.
Where were they at the car?
I can't recall if they were inside or outside, but I was not near the car, so I wasn't with them.
So you don't have a clear recollection of seeing them together at the car, right?
Yes.
Okay. That's, yes, you don't have a clear recollection, right?
Please repeat that.
You said yes, and it was either you do have a clear recollection of them being at the car, or you don't have a clear recollection.
Yes, I have a clear recollection they were at the car.
You have a clear recollection
And I
now
was
of
not
seeing
with
them at the car.
Yes.
You just said that they could have been in the car, they could have been out of the car. Were
could
they
have
in the
been.
car or out of the car?
It's been 3 years.
I'm sorry?
It's been 3 years.
I understand that, sir. I'm just asking you what your recollection is. You said they could have been in the car, they could have been out of the car. Now you're telling me you have a clear recollection. Were they in the car? Were they out of the car?
I guess my recollection's not clear enough. They were around the car.
Okay. And do you recall what they were doing when they were around the car?
Most likely chatting.
Not what were they most likely doing, sir. What do you recall them doing when you've told us now that they were around the car?
Chatting.
You saw them chatting?
Yes.
What did you see in their hands?
I don't recall seeing anything in their hands.
You sure you're not assuming that they must have been there because you don't recall seeing them with your groups of friends that you were talking to?
I'm going to object based on, it's a little argumentative.
I'm going to overrule it.
I'm going to ask you to repeat that, please.
Are you sure that you're not assuming that they must have been by the car because you don't recall seeing them with the groups of friends that you were with?
So where we were near the baseball field at Trumbull High. The car was parked maybe 20 feet away. We were sitting near a curb or talking to a car near the curb. So they were in our point of view. So yes, I saw.
Okay, so you did see them at the car.
Yes.
You saw them inside the car?
Objection asked and answered.
I'll allow the follow-up. There's been some confusion. Go ahead.
They were in the car.
Not outside the car.
They were in the car.
They were in the car.
They were in the car.
Windows up or windows down?
I don't recall.
And when you left the parking lot at Trumbull High School, you said you knew that you weren't going to your house because the car took a left to Shelton, right?
Yes,
And you live in Trumbull.
I do.
And at that point, you said you assumed that they were going to drop off Mackenzie because you knew she lived in Shelton, right?
Yes.
And nobody said, hey, we're leaving right now and we're going somewhere, correct?
No, nobody said that.
The car just started following this direction, right?
Yes, I assumed I was going home.
And there was another car following you, right? The white BMW?
There was.
And that was Shane Kocher and Mike Bagley's car?
They don't share a car. I believe it was Shane's car.
Okay. It was Shane's car. Mike Bagley was with him.
Yes.
And you saw them following you?
They were going to follow me.
And how long was the ride from Trumbull High School to Tyler Rich's house?
More than 5 minutes.
More than 5 minutes? Less than 10?
I don't recall the exact time frame, but it was more than 5 minutes.
Had you been there before?
I have not.
And you said that initially the car came up to 43 Laurel Glen but drove by it, right?
Yes.
When you drove by, you could see that there were people already outside of 43 Laurel Glen?
Yes.
How many people?
I can't put an exact number on it, but it was less than the amount of people that surrounded the car once we turned around.
Okay, and you said that was at least 20 people, right?
Yes.
Could have been as many as 30?
Could have been.
And so when you drove by the house the first time, was it 10 people in the yard, 15 people in the yard?
I can't put an exact number on it.
Was it 5 people in the yard?
Objection asked and answered.
Sustained.
You drove by, you saw these people in the yard, and then the car turned around at the cul-de-sac. Was that down at Farmhouse Lane where the car stopped later on?
I'd have to look at a map, but we drove by the Rich house and turned around.
Fraczek, I don't mean to surprise you, but I'm going to come around you now and show you what is on the easel. State's Exhibit 1. Let's see if that can help us a little bit, okay? You got a pointer right there beside you. All right, do you see the red dot?
Yes.
Does that look like 43 Laurel Glen that we saw in the other pictures?
It does.
And did the car that you were riding in come up Adams Drive and turn left onto Laurel Glen?
I don't recall the exact route we took in.
Okay. But at some point you went past 43 Laurel Glen, right?
We were in front of Laurel Glen and then turned around at the cul-de-sac.
And when you say turned around at the cul-de-sac, which cul-de-sac are you describing using that Exhibit 1 in front of you?
There's only one up there.
Okay. So you went down to the end of Adams Drive and turned around.
Yes.
And that is different than the other end of the street where you have the intersection with Laurel Glen and Farmhouse Lane, correct?
Yes.
So you were in the vehicle and it drives past, you can see people in the yard, go up to the end of Adams Drive, car turns around, right?
Yes.
And at that point, where did the vehicle go?
After we turned around,
Yes.
it was back out in front of the Rich household,
And when you say back out in front of the Rich house,
in front of the driveway.
blocking the driveway so that cars couldn't get out?
I don't believe it was blocking the driveway,
I'm
but
gonna show you.
it was in the road.
Okay. I'm going to show you State's Exhibit 49. Can you see that up on your screen?
Yes.
Okay. And can you describe for us, using this picture, where that car parked?
Where the driveway meets the road, but in the middle of the road.
In the middle of the road.
It was not in the driveway.
Not in the driveway.
Yes.
Closer to the other side of the street or closer to the driveway?
I can't recall.
And then at that point, the car stopped, correct?
Yes.
And you said that at least 20 people surrounded the car, right?
Not at first.
Okay.
They were on the driver's side.
Okay. How many people were there at first on the driver's side?
Under 20.
Under 20.
Yes.
More than 10?
Yes.
And you said at first they were only on the driver's side and that at first it was peaceful.
Yes.
What was peaceful about it? Can you describe what was happening?
There wasn't any shouting. I would say that's peaceful.
Okay. Were people talking?
Yes.
Were the windows rolled down?
Mine was not. I believe the only window rolled down was the driver's side window.
When you say yours was not, where were you?
In the back.
And you were near a window? You were up against a door?
I don't recall, but I was in a back seat, and the nearest window would have been one of those two windows in the back.
Was there any music on inside the car as you drove there?
I can't recall.
And you said people were talking, correct?
Amongst themselves.
When you say amongst themselves, is that within the vehicle itself or between the two groups?
When we were surrounded,
Yes.
or when they're on the driver's side, like that time?
When they're on the driver's side and you've described it as being peaceful and people were talking.
Yep.
Who was talking? Was that within the car or was that between the two groups?
It was between the two groups.
Okay. Did you hear any threats being made?
At first, no.
Did you see any weapons?
No.
And then you said things started getting out of hand, right?
Sounds right.
You described tensions were escalating, right?
Sounds right.
And was Mr. Valle uttering threats at that point?
I can't recall Mr. Valle talking at that point.
You don't recall Mr. Valle talking to any of the people outside the vehicle, is that fair to say?
Fair.
And do you recall where Ms. Trafficante was?
Can't recall. She was in the car.
She was in the car.
She was.
Was she sitting on Mr. Valle's lap?
I can't exactly recall.
Your attention was directed to the people outside the vehicle that were becoming more aggressive. Is that fair to say?
Yes.
And you've described that things were being thrown at the vehicle.
Things were thrown.
Do you know what was being thrown?
Objects.
What kind of objects?
Hard objects.
Hard objects. Do you know, can you describe any of those objects?
I can't.
How did you know they were hard objects?
Because they made a loud sound.
As they hit the car.
Yes.
Did you hear glass shatter?
I did not.
You said that people were on the back of the car,
Yes.
like on the bumper,
On the bumper.
standing on it,
Standing on the bumper.
bouncing up and down.
Bouncing up and down.
You could feel that inside the vehicle.
If someone's bouncing on the bumper, the car bounces. So
How
yes.
many people were on the back?
I can't put a number on it.
More than one?
I can't remember.
Oh, wow.
You can't put a number on.
No.
There were people on the passenger side as well at this point.
Once things got out of hand, yes.
Once things got out of hand, as you've described it, in fact, the car was completely surrounded, right? People on all sides.
Yes.
At least 20 people at that point.
Yes.
Could have been more.
Could have.
And you said you were pretty scared.
I was.
What did you think those people were going to do to the car?
Objection calls for speculation.
Sustained.
What was scary about that to you?
You're 7 people trapped inside a car. People banging on it, throwing things at it, bouncing the car.
You weren't driving the car, right?
No.
You had no ability to make that car move, did you?
Did not.
Why didn't you just get out the door and walk away from the vehicle at that point?
Because there was an individual right outside my window,
And what was that individual right outside your window doing?
banging on the car.
Banging on the door?
Yes.
How many people were on the passenger side at that point?
More than I could count.
People in front of the vehicle as well?
Yes.
And could you hear a rumbling sound of fists and feet kicking and punching the vehicle?
I wouldn't call it rumbling. I can't remember the exact sound, but you could definitely hear the car being hit.
Did anybody get on the front of the car and bounce up and down like they did on the back?
I don't believe so.
Did you see anybody reach into the driver's side of the vehicle?
No.
You didn't see anybody put their body into the driver's side of the vehicle?
I don't recall seeing any of that.
Do you recall any sort of struggle between the driver, Jack Snyder, and anybody from the group?
No, I was too focused on what was going on around me. I didn't have enough time or the attention to look in front of me.
You said at that point you were pretty scared and someone said go, right?
Someone within the car did.
Someone in the car said go.
Someone outside of the car wouldn't tell them to go.
I'm sorry?
Someone outside of the car wouldn't tell Jack Snyder to go.
Somebody outside the car would not tell Jack Snyder to go.
Yes, it would not make sense.
So somebody in the car said go, you felt the gas be hit, and the car starts going down the road, right?
Yes.
Did you have a sense of relief at that point?
I don't remember how I was feeling, but I was not happy.
Still scared?
Yes.
Terrified?
That's a good way to put it.
And you said towards the top of the photo you were shown, which showed the intersection of Laurel Glen Drive and Farmhouse Lane, the vehicle stopped, right?
It did.
And you saw on the Ring video people chasing the vehicle down there, correct?
That's what the video showed, yes.
Do you recall that?
I can't recall it. That's just a blank.
Just a blank.
Yes.
So you don't recall while the car was going down towards Farmhouse Lane that things were being thrown at the car?
I don't remember any of that.
You don't recall being chased?
I must have been in some sort of shock where that part is just a blur. All I remember is getting back onto the curb.
Was that, could you identify yourself as one of those people who got out of the car there and sat on the curb?
I was within the 4 people that sat on the curb.
So you say you were within the 4 people. You saw in that video that some people get out of the car, but the car itself continued to move, correct?
That's what the video looked like, yes.
Did you get out of the car before it continued to move?
I can't recall that.
So you don't know if you were one of those people that initially got out before it moved.
No.
And when you got out of the car and you went and sat on the curb, where were you as far as using Exhibit 1 there behind you? Can you show us where you sat? If you still have the pointer there, that might be helpful.
I believe we're around this area.
Can the record reflect, Your Honor, that the witness is pointing to the area just in front of what has been identified before as 36 Laurel Glen?
Court will allow the record to reflect that information. Thank you.
And which side of the road did you sit on?
After driving away from the rich household, I was on the right side of the road.
You were on the right side of the road. So you were closest to that house, 36 Laurel Glen Drive, as opposed to the other side of the road?
Yes, I can't put a number on the house, but I remember there was a house behind us.
Okay, and you were on the side where the house was, right?
Yes.
And who was there with you when you were there by that house?
Mackenzie, Demetrios, and Will.
So there's 4 of you there. How close are you to one another?
Pretty close.
As like you could reach out and touch all of them?
I probably could have.
And when you were there, where did the car go, the Pilot that was driven by Jack Snyder?
It went back towards the rich household.
I'm sorry?
It went back towards the rich household.
So immediately after you got out, the car turned around and went back?
The car was stationary.
So the car was stationary. Where was it when you were sitting on the curb?
I can't recall how far away it was, but it was within view.
It was within view?
Yes, it was.
Can you point out on Exhibit 1 there where that car was?
I cannot.
You can't.
No,
Do you see the intersection there on Laurel Glen and Farmhouse Lane?
I do.
Was it at the intersection?
I can't recall.
So you don't know if it was beyond that intersection?
I can't recall.
You can't recall how far away that car was.
No.
And while you were sitting on the curb, you told us that the cars moved some distance away, but you can't tell us how far away it was. But you did see some Shelton High kids come running up from the direction of 43 Laurel Glen. Do you recall that?
Yes.
How many kids were coming running up?
Can't put an exact number on it. I'd say less than 5.
Less than 5. Did you stay in this tight group of 4 throughout the course of while you were in front of that house, or did people split up a little bit?
I can't recall. They might have split up.
You told us before that you felt like you'd walked into a trap.
Sounds right.
And you said that you were sitting on the curb away from the car and you couldn't hear what was being said between the Shelton High kids and the other kids from St. Joe's, right?
I couldn't hear the exact words. You could obviously hear that they're talking. Can't make out the words. But yes, they were talking.
You said at first everything was cordial, right?
It was.
And then it escalated,
It did.
but you couldn't hear what was being said.
No,
And the car was still stationary at that point?
it was.
You don't know how far away it was.
Nope.
You didn't see any fighting going on between those groups.
I did not.
Did you ever see Mr. Valle over, if you're looking at Exhibit 1, just before the house where you've described yourself as sitting, you see there's an area where there are some woods or some bushes there?
Yes.
Did you ever see Mr. Valle in that area?
If you don't mind, are you talking about this area over here?
No, sir. Remember where you described yourself as being? Okay, look, if you would, just before that house, on the same side where you've described yourself as sitting. Sorry, just that. There we go. See that area of bushes?
Yes.
Did you ever see Mr. Valle over there?
No.
Because he was down some direction away from that by the car, according to your recollection, right?
Yes.
And you never saw anybody spray Mr. Valle in the face with anything?
No.
You never saw a can of PB Blaster being thrown?
No.
And you think that that lasted about 5 minutes down there, correct?
Yes, it was pretty cordial.
It was pretty cordial, but then you said it escalated.
It did.
What was the nature of the escalation?
I believe it was between Mr. Rich and Ty Da Silva. It turned into louder shouting, and then it almost looks like one's trying to calm another down. It looks like Tyler was trying to calm down Tyler Rich, who was pretty hot.
So now you can tell us that, in fact, you could identify two of those people that you saw down there as being Tyler Rich and Tyler Da Silva.
I know it was those two people.
How do you know Tyler Rich?
I know his name from social media, I'd say.
And Tyler Rich was one of the as many as 5 kids from Shelton High that you saw down there.
He was among them.
Could you identify any of the other kids that were down there from Shelton High?
I could not.
Did you see Mr. Valle interacting with Mr. Rich?
Maybe they were chatting, but I can't put a definite on that.
Okay, so you couldn't tell
But
us that you saw Mr. Valle chatting
Mr.
with
Valle,
Mr. Rich.
Mr. Da Silva, and Jack Snyder were together.
They were together. Which way was the vehicle facing at that point?
I can't recall which way.
Did you see brake lights or did you see headlights?
I don't know.
Were the doors open or closed?
I don't know.
You saw Mr. Valle, Mr. Da Silva, and Mr. Snyder all outside of the car together.
All 3 of them were outside the car.
Which side of the car were they on?
I can't tell you that.
Were they moving around from place to place?
I don't remember.
The vehicle stayed down further away from you in this stationary position, correct?
Yes.
Until at some point you saw 3 people get back into it and the vehicle drove back to 43 Laurel Glen Drive, right?
Yes, 3 individuals got in the car and drove back to Laurel Glen.
And you, Mackenzie, Demetrius, and Will were still on the curb in that same spot.
We were still on the curb.
Did you ever get up and move around to get closer to see what was going on down there?
When they went back,
No, when this was going on, what you've described down at the intersection with the Shelton High kids and the,
I can't recall. I believe we were on the curb.
you think you were just sitting on the curb?
Yes.
And then you said you heard Mr. Valle say to Jack Snyder, "Where's your knife? Where the fuck is your knife?" Right?
That did happen.
That's the only thing that you heard while you were seeing this interaction go on, that you told us you could not see or hear what else was going on?
No, you didn't ask me when I heard about the knife.
Okay.
It was, I can't put an exact time frame on it, but it was when I was either in the car or just outside the car, but it happened before the 3 of them went back, and it happened after the 7 of us arrived initially on Laurel Glen.
Sometime between the time that you first got there and were surrounded
Yes.
and the time that they went back to the house,
Yes.
that's as close as you can tell us when you claim to have heard this.
Yes.
So you could have been in the vehicle when you heard this, or you could have been on the curb when you heard this.
I don't think I was on the curb because I saw with my eyes he was looking in the glove compartment and the center console.
Mr. Valle was seated in the back seat.
I don't know.
Well, sir, who was driving the car?
Jack Snyder.
And Tyler Da Silva was the front passenger, was he not?
He could have been. I don't remember.
But if Lido Valle was seated in the back seat, your recollection is that he was in the glove box looking for a knife.
If he happened to be in the back seat, I think it's within an arm's reach, the center console and the glove compartment. But I do not know if he was in the shotgun seat or in the back.
This Honda Pilot, do you recall it being, the interior being somehow different than the typical car where the glove box is right in front of the passenger?
Can you repeat that?
Sure. Was there something different about this Honda Pilot that the glove box was not directly in front of the passenger?
I don't believe so. I believe it was a normal car.
But your recollection is that Mr. Valle was able to reach into the glove box and was tearing the whole place apart trying to get it.
The glove box and the center console were being rummaged through.
And you said that he was on edge and he was looking for the knife because he was upset from what happened to Jack Snyder's car, right?
I don't know exactly why he was looking for it, but he was searching for it.
Well, you told us he was in the glove box, he was on edge, he was upset from what had happened to Jack Snyder's car.
He
You
was
remember
upset.
telling us that?
He was upset.
Right. So this must have occurred after you had already gotten there and the car had been surrounded, right?
Sounds right.
Okay. So did it happen as the car was driving from in front of 43 Laurel Glen to down where you got out of the vehicle?
Sounds about right.
Okay, so now you can tell us, oh, actually, you know what, that is what happened. It was while we drove from 43 Laurel Glen down to 36.
No, that's you narrowing it down, and it sounds right.
It sounds right. Are you just agreeing with me to agree with me, or do you have a
No,
recollection?
he wouldn't be rummaging through a glove box if there was nothing going on. Like when we were just approaching, he would not be rummaging through a glove box.
Do you recall the vehicle moving while he was, as you put it, rummaging through the glove box?
Cannot recall.
Do you recall him leaning up into the glove box area?
I cannot recall.
But you recall him being in the glove box?
The glove box was opened, and the center console was opened.
You saw those things happen?
Yes.
Okay. Did you see Mr. Snyder pull the knife out of the console?
No.
Did you ever see Mr. Snyder with the knife?
No, I never saw a knife.
You never saw the knife.
Never saw a knife.
Of Mr. Snyder, Mr. De Silva, and Mr. Valle, who did you know best?
I can't tell you that. I don't know. They were all friends.
They were all friends?
Yes.
How long had you known Mr. Snyder?
Since freshman year.
How long had you known Mr. De Silva?
Freshman year.
And how long had you known Mr. Valle?
Freshman year.
All since freshman year?
Yes.
You were a sophomore at this point.
Yes.
So you'd only known them for about 2 school years?
Sounds right.
Never knew them before that?
No.
And you're certain that this occurred while you were in the vehicle?
I said in or around.
In or around?
Yes, I could have been just outside the vehicle, but I was able to see it.
So when you say in or around, you mean you might have been in the vehicle and you saw him going into the glove box, or you might have been outside the vehicle on the curb and you saw him go in the glove box?
No,
Okay.
I was not on the curb when this occurred.
You're sure of that now?
Yes.
What do you mean when you say around the vehicle?
Within 2 feet outside the car.
So you were outside the car, possibly?
I said I could not recall whether I was inside or outside.
And you were within 2 feet. You couldn't tell us how far away that car was before. But now you're saying that when this happened, you were either in the car or you were outside of it, but only within 2 feet of it.
The knife, looking for the knife or a knife, did not happen when I was on the curb.
Well, when did it happen?
When I was either in the car, because I saw it with my own 2 eyes.
Either when you were in the car would imply that there's an or, and you've told us before, or when you were outside of the car, right?
Possibly could have been once we drove away and we were all starting to get out of the car. Then I went and sat on the curb. But it was before I sat on the curb, before they went back, and it happened after we arrived.
So you can't be certain of where you were when this happened, is that fair to say?
I can be certain that I saw it with my 2 eyes.
You can't be certain of where you were when you saw it with your 2 eyes, is that fair to say?
I was within 2 feet of the car, if not in the car.
When you're down in front of that house, was the car only 2 feet away with you?
When we're where?
When you were down in front of the house where you described getting out on the curb, was the car only 2 feet away from you now?
When I was on the curb?
Yes.
I told you I couldn't put a number on the exact feet I was from the car, but it was further than 2 feet.
Further than 2 feet, right? So
Yes.
far away that you couldn't hear what was going on down there, you told us.
That's what I said, yes.
But you think that you could see the glove box rummaging going on.
Like I said before, it did not happen when I was on the curb. When I was on the curb, that's when Tyler Rich and everybody came over and they were talking. So it happened before I went and sat on the curb.
It happened either when you were in the car, right? Or when you were outside of the car, right?
Not on the curb, though.
But you can't tell us
I
which
said
of
I was
those two it
within
was.
2 feet.
And in fact, you told us you never saw a knife that night, right?
Never saw him.
But you heard about it afterwards, right?
What do you mean by that?
Well, you told us afterwards you came to learn that there was a claim of a knife being involved, right?
When the police contacted me, yes.
Ah, so the police told you, hey, there was a knife involved, right?
Objections to what the police told them.
Sustained.
You learned from the police that they thought there was a knife involved, right?
Objection to.
Sustained.
That's when I got clarification.
Okay. And then you told us that the 4 of you, that being Mackenzie Traficante, Will Sinjwal, Demetrius Arfanos, you were talking amongst yourselves down there, right? The vehicle left.
Yes.
You could not see the car, but you could hear some yelling going on, correct?
Correct.
You heard a high-pitched scream, you told us, correct?
Correct.
And then the car returned, right?
It did.
And at that point, you were how far away from the vehicle?
We got up and approached the vehicle.
Okay. And so you were close enough that you could see that Tyler De Silva was bleeding, right?
Yes.
Bleeding a lot, you said, right?
Profusely.
Bruised everywhere, right?
Sounds right.
And I think you described him as being just about unconscious, right?
That's what I said.
And you said you could also see Mr. Valle?
I could see him.
Where was he?
I was not inspecting him.
Where was he?
In the car.
Where?
I can't tell you exactly.
You don't know if he was in the passenger side or in the back seat?
I know Tyler De Silva was in the back seat.
Tyler De Silva was in the back seat.
Yes.
You don't know where you saw Mr. Valle?
No.
Could have been in the back seat?
Could have.
Could have been in the passenger seat?
He could have.
Could have been driving?
No.
No. Who was driving?
Jack Snyder.
The whole time, right?
I did not go down there and see what happened, but it's safe to assume so, yes.
You didn't see anybody else drive that vehicle that night, right?
No.
That was Jack Snyder's car, right?
It was.
And you said that Mr. Valle looked shocked, correct?
Yes.
You said he did not look as battered as Mr. De Silva,
I did say that.
but he looked battered.
He didn't look as bad as Mr. De Silva, but it also looks like he didn't, like nothing happened to him. Like he looked like he was in a fight.
Looked like he was in a fight. Looked like he'd been punched in the face.
I can't tell if he was punched in the face. I was not inspecting him like that.
When you say he looked like he'd been in a fight, what do you mean?
Shocked, exhausted, could have been bruising. But my attention was more towards Mr. De Silva.
You heard Mr. Valle say that he was on his back,
I did.
that he'd been on the
I
ground.
object. That's calls for hearsay. It's a late objection, but as to what the defendant said,
This is what Mr. De Silva said? It's
No, Your Honor, this is what Mr. Valle
Mr.
said.
Valle said.
it's hearsay.
It is hearsay. It's,
Yes, that'd be
It's a
stricken.
statement of the defendants.
it's your client's statement. It's not opposition. I'll sustain the objection based on the hearsay.
Ask that it be stricken from the record, please.
Court will strike it from the record.
Your Honor, may we have sidebar?
Certainly. Let me just take a moment to clarify. So, ladies and gentlemen of the jury, the court did strike the last response from the record. And again, the attorney's question is not to be considered evidence. Thank you.
You described him as being not as battered as Mr. De Silva, but you admit you weren't inspecting him, so to speak.
Yes.
At that point, Mr. Senjwald got a ride from Carolyn Takis,
Yes.
and Madison Traficante came to pick you up, correct?
Yes, simultaneously.
It was about an 8-minute ride to your home, right?
Sounds about right, yes.
And you were sitting right beside Mr. Valle, correct?
I was.
Were you inspecting him at that point?
No.
Was there any music on in the car at that point?
I believe so, yes.
Loud music?
I don't know.
Do you recall when you spoke to officers about this before, telling them that you did not hear any comments about a knife when they drove down the road and everyone exited the vehicle?
Please repeat.
Do you recall telling officers when you spoke to them on September 1st that you do not recall hearing any comments about a knife when they drove down the road and everyone exited the vehicle?
I'm not too sure what you're talking about.
Nothing further. Thank you.
Keenan, counsel just asked you a little bit about when the car goes down the street, people are getting out. There's this moment where you say you get out of the car and then you go sit by the curb. So I just want to make sure that we're all on the same page. Car goes down the street. At what moment when the car goes down the street after the incident in front of 43 Laurel Glen do you do you hear the defendant ask, Jack, where's the knife? Let me get the knife.
Objection, Your Honor, asked and answered.
Well, this is redirect, so overruled.
Can you repeat that, please?
At what point do you hear in the timeline, right? To
Yep.
the best of your recollection, when you drive down the street towards Farmhouse Road, you say you get out of the car at some point and then you're close to the car and you sit on the curb, but do you hear the defendant ask for the knife as you're getting out of the car and then you go sit at the curb, or do you go sit at the curb and then come back closer to the car and hear the defendant ask for the knife?
It was before I sat on the curb.
So when you drive down the street, there's a conversation between the defendant and Jack Snyder where the defendant asks him for the knife prior to you getting out, or just as you're getting out of the car.
Yes, it was prior.
And when you get out of the car, after you hear that, when do you observe him looking inside the car for the knife?
It was prior to myself and others sitting on the curb.
And at some point after you witness him looking for the knife in the car, is that when you go sit by the curb?
Yes, it was after.
And when you're sitting by the curb, I think you indicated you were sitting on the curb on the, if I may approach, Your Honor. Did you indicate you were sitting on the curb, this is States 1, in front of what has been referred to as 36 Laurel Glen? You were somewhere in this area here after that conversation occurred between the defendant and Jack Snyder?
Yes, I believe so.
So if the record can reflect, I'm referring to the area in front of 36 Laurel Glen on the right side of the road.
Record can reflect.
So at some point in time, you're seated on the curb. Does the car move away from where you were seated on the curb?
The car does move away.
How far away does it move?
Well, it eventually went back. And
Okay. So when the car is in that area where you're seated, is it facing Farmhouse Road at this point, or is it facing Laurel Glen? I mean, facing Adams?
I can't exactly recall which way it was facing.
But at some point, the car
Turned around. It must have turned
The
around.
defendant, Jack, and Tyler get in that car, turns around, and maybe goes back to 43 Laurel Glen?
They did go back.
So to the best of your recollection, the defendant asking for the knife happens after the incident in front of 43 Laurel Glen, but before they go back to 43 Laurel Glen.
And 43 Laurel Glen is the Rich household, correct?
Yes.
Yes.
So the next thing I think you said on cross-examination that when counsel asked you, when did Lido ask for the knife, you said it happened before I went and sat on the curb and before Tyler Rich came over to talk. Is that right? Do you recall when the series of events,
Yes.
that's when it happened? Before Tyler Rich came down the street? Before there was
No,
that?
it was before they went back and after the car got surrounded
Okay.
outside the Rich household.
That's the best you can recall?
That is the best I can work with.
All right. Thank you. I have no further questions.
Anything further by the defense?
You were seated on the curb, and you claim you saw my client reaching into the glove box.
Not when I was on the curb.
Not when you were on the curb.
I just explained I wasn't on the curb.
You were in the car when you saw him reaching in the glove box.
I was within 2 feet, if not in the car, because I saw it with my own 2 eyes.
You weren't on the curb. You weren't in the car.
I could have been in the car.
You could have been in the car. You could have been out of the car.
I saw it with my own 2 eyes and heard it.
What did you see with your own 2 eyes?
The glove box and center console opened and rummaged through.
Was the defendant in the car or out of the car?
In the car.
Where was he seated?
I told you I don't remember.
The vehicle dropped you off by the curb? Where
I
you sat down?
I got out of the car and sat on the curb.
You didn't walk a long distance from where you got out of the car?
I can't recall that.
Nothing further.
Any redirect?
Nothing further, Your Honor.
Thank you. All right. You're all set. Thank you. Watch your step as you exit the witness box. All right, we'll take our afternoon recess, 15 minutes. Ladies and gentlemen, the jury will take our 15-minute break. Thank you. Court stands.
All right, recess.
May I see counsel for a moment?